Valley Authority represents one of the longest running examples of federal infrastructure investment, delivering measurable benefits to a region that might otherwise have been left behind. Affordable electricity is not a luxury. It is the foundation of economic activity, healthcare delivery, education, and household stability. When a public utility that has served that function for nearly a century faces pressure to be privatized or redirected toward private commercial interests, the communities most dependent on its affordability protections have the most to lose. In a state like Mississippi, where residents are already spending 72% of their income on basic needs, a significant increase in energy costs would push more households below the line that already shows 58% of the population cannot meet their basic needs.
Coming in at number one, the poorest state in America is Mississippi. Mississippi has been struggling with poverty for decades, with an 18.7% poverty rate, and the problem only seems to be getting worse. Top of all of this, Mississippi is seriously experiencing food insecurity. 50 out of the 82 counties in Mississippi are considered to be living in extreme poverty. So yeah, being the state with the highest rate of poverty in the country, lack of access to certain benefits, lack of grocery stores, high healthcare costs, institutional racism that has negative effects on marginalized racial groups, it's easy to see why Mississippi tops lists of top 10 poorest states in America every single year.
If the cost of living has gone up by 50% since 2008, then why hasn't minimum
Institutional racism that has negative effects on marginalized racial groups, it's easy to see why Mississippi tops lists of top 10 poorest states in America every single year.
If the cost of living has gone up by 50% since 2008, then why hasn't minimum wage gone up at all? My sister-in-law posted something yesterday saying that where she lives, minimum wage has been raised significantly. It's like $18 an hour or something in Denver, which is wonderful. I think that's wonderful. Ours in Mississippi is still $7.25, and that's the federal minimum wage. $7.25. I can remember when I was in high school working a part-time job when it went up from $5.25 to $7.25. And that I graduated in 2008, so it had to be around that time. So I Googled it today. The cost of living has gone up 50% since 2008. And the minimum wage is still the same. That's insane. I don't even know that much about it, but like, who changes that? And why aren't states keeping up with the inflation? It's crazy. But seriously, 50% since 2008 is crazy. Crazy.
Mississippi leads the nation in poverty. It leads in food insecurity. It has the highest grocery tax in the country. Its roads are underfunded. Its welfare system was looted of $77 million. Its small towns are losing residents who see no future there. And its energy infrastructure now faces pressure from private interests that would raise costs for the people least able to absorb them. None of these conditions are inevitable. They are the product of specific policy choices made by specific elected officials over many years, choosing not to expand Medicaid, choosing to maintain the highest grocery tax in the nation, choosing not to raise the minimum wage, choosing not to invest in rural infrastructure, education, or public safety in the communities that need it most, and choosing to allow public welfare funds to be misused without full accountability. The residents speaking in this video are not asking for extraordinary intervention. They are describing a gap between what their state promises and what it delivers that has become so wide it defines daily life for the majority of Mississippi's population. When 58% of residents cannot meet their basic needs in a state that markets itself on affordability, the marketing has become a substitute for governance. And the voters who continue to return the same officials to power while those conditions persist face a question that is uncomfortable but necessary. At what point does the record matter more than the rhetoric? Because the numbers in Mississippi are not abstract. They are the lived reality of families trying to survive in a state that has been telling them for decades that they are lucky to be there.
I thought that was some good, interesting highlights on the current state of our political system and how states around the country are being governed, yet alone the federal government. But this kind of blows the cover on the hypocrisy and the flawed messaging from the elites in our country, along with the political parties, especially the GOP, who loves to use California as a scapegoat as the most terrible state to live in. Well, it turns out the data proves that's not true. California has a lot of problems, sure. I'm not disagreeing with that. Blue states have their own problems. They all have problems, especially when it comes to affordability. But turns out Mississippi is one of the worst states in America to live in. And I want to remind people of something. They're like the most Republican state in the Union, next to Wyoming and South Dakota. Okay, so spare me the nonsense, okay? It just goes to show you that it isn't the liberal boogeyman that's raising the cost of our living, okay? It isn't the blue states only that contribute to the worst quality of our life, okay? This is just political scapegoating and fear-mongering. But the reality is, I want to remind people, states like Mississippi live off the hog of blue states in America. States like Mississippi get federal funding from states like California and Massachusetts and New York. Okay? So honestly, people in those states are paying for the welfare of states like Mississippi. But what do you think Mississippi legislators do in return? You think they take care of their constituents? No, of course not. They raise the prices on their groceries. They price gouge them to death. They keep their wages low. So as other states are evolving and raising their minimum wage to $18 an hour, what is states like Mississippi doing? They're keeping the minimum wage at $7.25 an hour when the cost of living and inflation has went up 50% since 2008. Their wages are still $7.25 an hour. So even if the cost of living is cheaper in Mississippi, your average wage is lower than the national average. So make that make sense. I mean, seriously. You know, that's all I got to say about this. All right, I'll see y'all later. Goodbye. Have a great night.